Good morning, welcome back. Eric's UK here. I was just looking over some old blog posts that I used to do about 10, 15 years ago, and I found a topic from 2006 that I still feel actually quite in agreement with, and I just wanted to throw it out there and get your opinions. I won't read what was blurbed exactly. I'll just discuss it. So, here in the UK, we didn't really get the internet until the very mid 1990s. And I think it was probably about 98 before we had it properly in our house, or in my house at the time. And you had internet forums for all different things. And I used to obviously frequent the role-playing ones, primarily the White Wolf Game Studios forums. And when 3rd edition D&D came out, it was EN World, a forum I've mentioned many, many times before. Now, back then, so late 90s into the early 00s, forums were an interesting place to read. I used to spend hours of my free time perusing said forums. And you would have interesting topics. Obviously, you're going to have topics that you just have no interest in, you skim over. But you used to have interesting topics. Whether it was game mechanics, whether it was world building, whether it was rules, topics and suggestions or queries, you name it. So, and I used to find it, what's the right word? Kind of eye-opening on certain people's views. I am generally under the impression that my gaming views are very different to everybody else's, very different to the majority. My viewpoints are very different, and I think that has changed over the years. I still think I'm probably in the minority, but by at least this time, 2006, and even more now, whenever I do get the idea of going to one of these forums and having a look again, I spend probably a few minutes looking over and going, actually, you know what? There isn't a single topic here that interests me. There isn't a single thing that grabs my attention and makes me want to read it or comment on it if I do look at it. It seems to me that forums have become very, to quote what I put on this particular original blog post here, dull and prosaic. There's nothing interesting anymore. It's either topics that, from newer players, that those of us who have been in the hobby for long enough and had the internet long enough have already covered to death, or they're a game system that I'm not interested in. I remember EN World was very heavily D&D orientated in the early 00s. You had a few people talking about World of Darkness, you had a few people talking about Call of Cthulhu, a couple other things, but primarily it was D&D. If you go on there now, it's, in a way, it's good. It covers every role-playing game. There's a lot of 4th and 5th discussion on there. There's a little bit of Pathfinder. There's hardly anything else. But there's all various games, and either they're things I've never heard of or have no interest in, or, as I say, the topics are they just don't interest. And I'm just curious, what has happened to gaming discussions online? I kind of get that if you have a forum that seems very dedicated to games that you're not interested in, then you're not going to get anything out of it. But forums always used to be a place for gamers to come together and discuss whatever, whatever the game system, whatever. the topic. And now it just seems that it's the same old things rehashed over and over again. And it's not just role-playing forums either. It's wargaming forums as well. For example, I look at most of the Warhammer 40k ones have kind of disappeared now because Games Workshop have got a much more, pardon me, a much more of a presence on Facebook where they interact with people, and I think it's all sort of moved there. But I look at one particular forum called Daka Daka, which quite frankly is horribly opinionated. And if you are not a competitive player, then basically they wonder why you're even there. But again, even as interested I am in 40k and their forums dedicated to that one particular game, I either find that nobody replies to any comments, or they just slag each other off. If you have a dissenting opinion, you'll get grief for it. And it's like the forums have changed. There was always a bit of trolling. But there's nothing that grabs me now to actually want to participate of that particular side of the community. And it's a real shame because I miss doing that. Don't know, this was just kind of a mini rant to put out, having spotted this old blog post of mine. And I'm curious, what's your thoughts? Are you somebody that's, like myself, used to frequent a lot of these forums and now don't for whatever reason? Are you a newer person, a newer player, I should say, not person, where you find that these sites are still valuable to your learning and communication and community spirit? Or what? The older we get, are we gamers getting less... the word's escaping me now, but are we unable to accept a lot of changes now in how gaming and its community are handled? Sometimes I wonder for me whether that's the case. Role-playing games and its community have changed a lot in the last 30 years. I mean a lot. So I'm just getting this out there and just looking forward to hearing any comments you have, and any thoughts you might have. Anyway, thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing any comments below. Until next time, take care guys, and good gaming.